Mr. Chief Justice.
The senator from Missouri.
Mr. Chief Justice, I send a question to the desk on behalf of myself, Senators McCaskill, or McSally rather, Lankford. It was a terrifying moment. On behalf of myself, Senator McSally, Senator Lankford, Senator Gardner, Senator Capito, and Senator Wicker, this is a question for the President's counsel.
Thank you. The question from Senator Blunt and other senators is for the counsel for the President. What does the supermajority threshold for conviction in the Senate, created by the framers, say about the type of case that should be brought by the House and the standard of proof that should be considered in the Senate?
There were several debates among the framers. Of course, should you have impeachment at all? We talked about that, what the criteria for impeachment should be. But then there was another debate. Who should have the ultimate responsibility for deciding whether the president should be removed? James Madison suggested the Supreme Court of the United States as a completely nonpartisan institution. Alexander Hamilton was concerned about that issue as well, but he said the Supreme Court would be inappropriate because the judicial branch should not become involved directly as a branch, okay, to preside over the trial, because ultimately an impeached president can be put on trial for crimes if he committed crimes. And Hamilton said that if he were to be put on trial, he would then be put on trial in front of the same institution, the judiciary, that had already impeached him, and they might have a predisposition. So in the course of the debate, it was finally resolved that the Senate, which it was a very different institution. Back at the founding, obviously, senators were not directly elected. They were appointed by the legislature. They were supposed to serve as an institution that checked on the House of Representatives, more mature, more sober, elected for longer periods of time, with an eye to the future, not so concerned about pleasing the popular masses. Remember, the framers were very concerned about democracy. Nobody ever called the United States a democracy, a republic if you can keep it, not a democracy. Very great concern about that. And then when it came time to assign it to the Senate, there was discussion about what the criteria and what the, obviously, vote should be. And the selection of a two-thirds supermajority was plainly designed to avoid partisan impeachments, plainly designed to effectuate the very wise philosophy espoused by the congressman and the senator during the Clinton campaign. That is, during the Clinton impeachment. Never, ever have an impeachment or removal that is partisan. Always demand that there be a widespread consensus, a widespread national agreement, and bipartisan support. What better way of assuring bipartisan support than requiring a two-thirds vote? Because almost in every instance, in order to get a two-thirds vote, you need members of both parties. Johnson case was a perfect example. In order to get that vote, you needed not only the party that was behind the impeachment, but you needed people from the other side as well. And when 7 Republicans dissented, based, I believe, largely on the arguments of Justice Curtis and others, arguments that I paraphrased here the other day, it lost by merely 1 vote. The Clinton impeachment, if I remember correctly, achieved a 50-50 split. Am I right about that? I think I'm right about that. And it only lost, I mean, it could have been 51-49. It wouldn't have been enough. And so I think it's plain that not only does the two-thirds requirement serve as a check on the House, but I think it sends a message to every senator. It sends a message even to those senators who would be in the 1/3. Reconsider, because if you're voting for a partisan impeachment, you're violating the spirit of the two-thirds requirement. You know, there are many institutions where at the end of the day, for example, political conventions, they seek a unanimous vote just to show unity. And I would urge some senators who favor impeachment to look at the two-thirds and say, if there's not going to be a two-thirds, there shouldn't be an impeachment, and therefore we're going to vote against impeachment, even though we might think that the criteria for impeachment have been satisfied. Do not vote for impeachment. Do not vote for removal unless you think that the criteria articulated by the senator and the congressman, and I believe by the Constitution and by Hamilton, are met, namely bipartisan, almost universal concern by the United States of America. That criteria is not met, and the two-thirds requirement really illustrates the importance the framers gave to that criteria.
Thank you, Counsel.